Hey, great day, y'all. Welcome back to the podcast. And so, in today's episode, I want to talk to you today about the 10-step college journey versus the 10-step business journey. And so there are a good amount of therapists in this day and age, 2025, where you desire to have more than one-on-one services, go beyond the typical therapy room or a telehealth room. And your desire is really to generate even more than 10K months. But I find that these big financial goals that are awesome also requires us to sit down, look in the mirror, and really look at maybe a previous season in our life or in our academic career that we have succeeded and hit some huge milestone goals, and to acknowledge all the big things that we have accomplished, primarily because our ego, our limiting beliefs get in the way. And when things look difficult, when things feel like we're not going to be able to see the other side, in business, we tend to give up. And it reminds me of the story about the 3 feet from gold, which is, I'm going to give y'all a little snapshot right before we get into this episode today. And so I want you to imagine that a guy decides that he wants to look up gold in a gold mine, right? So what does he do? He goes and gets all of his friends, all of his family, and he says, "Hey, y'all, I promise I'm going to pay you back when we find the gold. But I need you to come help me dig for the gold first." So everybody's on board because everybody wants the reward after the digging is done. So they're digging and it takes way longer than anticipated. So ultimately, the gentleman decides, you know what, there's no gold here because I haven't found any yet. Remember, in his timeline. So what he does is he goes and finds someone to buy it from him. Now, what he doesn't realize is that the person who bought the mine area is a business person. And this person is serious about their business. They believe in the power of delegation. So what does this mean? What does this look like? This means that this business person is not going to rely on just the things that they have been self-taught, things that they have been exposed to. They know if they don't have an expertise in finding gold, they probably need to go find someone who does. So he is a real big component of staying in his genius zone and delegation. So he buys the gold mine and then he goes and finds the best person who understands mines. And what he realizes when they hit it in a shorter time span, because they do find the gold, they realize that if the previous person would have only just dug 3 feet deeper, 3 feet longer, they would have hit the pot of gold. And so I want you to keep that narrative in mind, because sometimes we want things delivered in a certain time span. But what we may not be realizing is that we are either rushing the process or simply we do not have the tools. But because we don't want to share our profits with anyone else, because we don't want to take the time to slow down to see who is around us, whether it be our, colleagues, friends in our same industry, or family and friends, we don't realize that they're not equipped to help us find the pot of gold, but we'll try to make them fit for now because we don't want to be uncomfortable. So let's get into this 10-step college journey success compared to 10 steps in business. So what I'm going to be doing is introducing the point, and then I'm going to be comparing the two, and then I will give you the mindset shift because, of course, I'm a clinical psychologist. So I want to make sure that you walk away with some great nuggets to take action right now. So number one is you had to decide that you wanted to go into business, very much like you chose to decide to go into college, maybe based off what you wanted to do at the end. So the journey when you went off to college is you decided to apply because you saw it as a necessary step for your future, for your career goals. For business, you decided to commit to a business idea because you wanted maybe time freedom. Maybe you wanted financial freedom, right? So when we look at those two, the mindset shift when it comes down to the decision is that if you don't fully commit, your success will always feel optional. So in order for you to start college, you would have had to commit even if your major was undeclared. If you want to start a business, you would have had to be committed to the idea to get the documentation in order. right? So number two, you have to review the requirements based on the desired outcome that you want. This means that you have to have an understanding of what it takes to run a business, just like you needed to understand what it meant to go to college for 4 or 5, 6 years. So for college, you may have researched, what is the required GPA that I need to have to get accepted into this school? Is there a requirement? Are there particular test scores that I need to have? Therefore, I need to go sit down and study and take these tests. And those things were needed for admission. For entrepreneurship and business, you want to understand the structure of, yes, what makes a successful business. And then you realize when you get exposed or when you just start trying things on your own that, oh, wait, I need to actually market my business. I need to generate sales. I have to keep clients. I have to understand my pricing, the psychology of pricing. I want to have systems because I don't want to be the bottleneck in my business. And a bottleneck, y'all, is basically you doing everything on your own. So the mindset shift that should happen in this stage to go to the next level is that you shouldn't just start a business just because it's an idea. You clearly start it because you want what's on the other side of the work that you're going to put in. So this means, just like college, in order to graduate, you plan for success. So I'm going to use a parallel process. When you go to college or even a certification or trade program or even realtor school, right? Some people are in real estate as a side hustle. You choose to look up the requirements, what test and what scores do you need in order to become whatever that title is. You did it. Reflect back, you finished it. So why is it that we can't take the time to sit down and make a plan versus being reactive in our business? Number three, you want to seek guidance. In college, you found the right mentors or the right counselor. In business, you find the right frameworks. So in college, you had to sit down with the counselor and map out a plan to graduate, make sure you were on track. In business, you sought out, or I hope at this point, you are seeking out mentorship and or coaching, primarily because not just to learn strategy, but also to learn strategy around avoiding years of trial and error based on what somebody else has done, and they can help you shortcut through the race. So the mindset shift is the fastest way to succeed is to learn from people who've already done and have a map to where you want to go. Okay. Number four is applying what you're learning, even if you don't feel fully ready, AKA implementation. We are in a day and age where people are so focused on 99.9% of information consumption that even for listening to a podcast or watching a video, some people don't even take note and say, you know what, I should probably take action on 1 out of the 10 versus just consuming and binge listening, because at some point, all you will be left with is information and then you will be overwhelmed. With business, you launch a business before it's perfect. You learn as you go, and this is where mentorships come in. So for example, when you looked at college, I don't believe that any college student is 100% ready for the full college experience, but they start anyway. In business, you start putting up, marketing about your business, you brand your business even before you're fully prepared, because the preparedness and what comes after the results comes from action. So the mind shift you want to take into account is waiting for the perfect time means that you're going to stay stuck wherever you are forever, or at least for a longer period of time than you desire. Number five, practicing delayed gratification. You have to wait for the results and you have to be patient. So with business, you want to understand clearly that business growth does not happen overnight. It just doesn't happen with one product. You go to a webinar, you learn it on your own in one night, and then boom, you have a six-figure business, a multi-six-figure business and beyond. So in college, it was the same way. You had to wait after you applied for the acceptance letter. You had to be patient throughout the process. Then you have to select your classes. You have to choose if you're going to live on campus, if you're moving away, out-of-state tuition, all of these things. In business, you have to be consistent, or my goal for you is to be consistent with getting in front of qualified leads, qualified customers for long-term success of your business. It's not that you launch a product one time, you get clients one time, and you never have to market again. That's not the way that the world works. And so For the mindset shift, you want to understand that success compounds over time because you stay the course. You stay focused. Number 6, adapting to a new work environment is very similar to understanding that what got you here in business will not get you there. So you may have a license, and that license got you to say, I'm qualified to open up my own business. But the letters behind your name or in front of your name don't equate to you having a successful business. It equates for you practicing ethically in your field, doing like one-on-one therapy. So in college, the way that this looked is that you realize that, you know what, my old study habits that was happening in high school, that information alone, but also my habits, it's not enough. Like, these college professors are on a whole nother level. So you have to start operating at the college level. In business, you want to learn that you have to actually unlearn old habits and adapt what's called a CEO mindset, just not a service provider mindset. Okay. So I used to tell our clients all the time in our private practice program that even though we have two different levels of therapists in the program, we have those who are very new, those who are seasoned but have no systems, and they want other streams of income, but they realize that their foundation is not sturdy. And what we find that's interesting is that from time to time, the newer people move faster than the existing private practice owners because the existing owners don't want to unlearn habits that are not serving them. So what do? They fall into that cycle of what we call insanity. You're trying different things. You're trying the same thing, expecting different results. But you may put a new dress on it and call it something new. No, it's the same way that you've been marketing yourself. Number 7, creating a personalized blueprint is very important even for college, just like structuring a business for long-term success. So in college, you had to sit down and choose a major at some point. Then you chose a minor. Then that developed a pathway, developed a plan. It told you how to graduate within a certain time frame based off even how many classes you chose to take. In business, in order for you to get to the end result of your desires, the picture that's in your mind, you want to reverse engineer it and create a plan. So you want to know, if I want to hit this money goal, this service goal of how many people I serve in my practice, for example, how many client hours do I need to have in a week, in a month? Then that equates to a year, of course, minusing the weeks that you are out of the office. How should you show up in market? Well, that's going to come with trial and error. You do a few, and then once you realize you got a rhythm, you keep doing it. You keep doing that thing until that thing does not work anymore. Of course, you want to decide, what is your offer? What is it that you sell per se? So is it one-on-one therapy? Is it group therapy? If you do both, which one are you building out right now, one thing at a time? All of these growth phases will eventually, with delegation and systems, lead to scale. So the mindset shift is, if you don't have a roadmap, you're really wasting your years just wandering with no direction. And that's not paying you, it's actually draining you. Number 8 is you definitely want to track progress. So you want to review your college credits, units, just like you want to review business metrics, and you want to adjust them over time. You don't wait until your junior year to realize, oh, wait, I should have taken a class in my sophomore year. Okay. So you check your GPA in college, you check your classes, where are you at to be on track to graduate. Same thing with business. You track your revenue, you track your client growth, you track your efficiency, you track your energy to ensure that your business is growing without burning you down to the ground first. Okay. So what you don't measure, you cannot grow. That is straight to the point. What you don't measure, you cannot grow. Number 9, big one that people avoid: overcoming challenges. You will have barriers, you will have setbacks, but if you learn how to pivot and seek help instead of quitting, and let me just put this in here as a bonus, get help before you about to quit. When you can sniff that something getting difficult, that might be the time, or you know that you don't know how to do something and it's coming up 6 months from now. Why would you wait to the 5th month to get help when you've had all this time to get help and then take your time building it out? So in college, when we reached a point where we needed help, what did? We went to the office of the college professor, office hours. We retook exams to get a higher score if the professor let us. We pushed through difficult classes no matter what because we had an end goal of graduating, right? So business is very similar. You should seek out help. You should make pivots in your business. You want to adapt instead of quitting when something does not work. When something doesn't work in your favor, especially in maybe even your short little timeline, if I can call you out, you have to remember that you've never done this before. And even if you've done it before, maybe the era that you did it before is very different than now. Maybe the marketing tools that you used back then is not working right now. So the mindset shift you want to take is every challenge in your business is an opportunity to level up. It's an opportunity for you to peel back a layer and become the next level of you. Now, number 10, graduating, the ultimate graduation, right? You graduate, that could be your licensure, but you realize, doggone it, there's another level. Hitting one business milestone will actually just probably reveal the next milestone that you were probably scared that you really wanted anyway. So what this will look like is, oh, I just want 12K months, but in reality, you really want 25. So when you hit the 12K month, you may realize, oh, I actually got enough stamina to do 15. Why don't you just go for the 25? Because if you go for the 25, you will start making moves like the person who earns 25, not the person who earns 12. So in college, you thought you were done with the degree, but then you had to get licensed. Then you had to choose your specialty ideally, maybe even get a higher degree or just keep up with your licensure. In business, you, for example, are hitting your monetary goal. Maybe it's 6 figures, but maybe the 6 figures is not the finish line. It just looks good in the beginning. So you realize you got to continue evolving to then reach a multi 6-figure business and brand and beyond. So with this in mind, you want to know that when you start, you're at entry level. An entry level of success does require you to grow into the next version of you, but it is a pruning process, right? So what I want you to take from all these points that I've provided for you today is your business journey is no different than when you've already mastered college and going to grad school. The same level of commitment, patience, and persistence, not giving up, no matter how hard it got, you still graduated. You still went on to get your license. And so why are we treating business any different? So I want you to remember, similar to what people say when you put together a vision board, put something on your vision board that you've already manifested because it's a constant reminder of what you've already done. So stop telling yourself you can't do something because you had to become a different person to become that person that manifested that thing on your vision board, right? But again, what got you to a previous level in your life won't get you to the next. So yes, it is a forever evolving process. If you enjoyed this podcast, I would love to have you back. If you are tuning in on YouTube, definitely subscribe to the channel. Let me know which out of the 10 hit you the most, or just ultimately what was your biggest takeaway. I would love to hear from you. If you are listening on the audio podcast, you're always welcome to join us in the conversation over on YouTube, but make sure you follow the podcast as well and share it with someone. Now, depending on when you're listening to this episode or watching it, we are coming up on some awesome things in our therapist community, from business CE workshops. Save your receipts because I'm always a person where I am helping you double dip, which means that you are getting 6 APA CEs and you are also going to fine tune your goals for Q4 in your business for this year, but also map out your 2026 related to motivational interviewing. So that's a very fun topic that I typically do at the end of the year. So make sure you check the show notes and description box to get information on how you can register for that CE workshop. And then just save the date, because in mid-September, we are going to be having a 4-day profitable private practice bootcamp. So if you know anything about our boot camps that happen around the fall, the level of excitement and just engagement and transformations is like no other. But before we get there, before we start strategizing, we need to make sure that up here, our mind is right. All right. So I would love to have you back. Subscribe, like this podcast episode, and I will talk to you on the next one. Bye.